Pascal, great to have you on the show. In terms of what we're seeing across the asset class more broadly right now, I just want to get your take, given the fact that we have seen Bitcoin climb above 40,000 again in recent trading sessions. We've seen a bounce in Ether and some of the other names, and sort of how it speaks to the dynamics we've seen from a pricing and trading perspective.
Sure. So thanks for having me. I think for us, we never look really at the price. We look at the dynamic of our own business and how much devices we're selling in terms of security. And what was interesting for us in Q1 is to see that we had exactly the same trend as we had in Q4, where Q4 was an extraordinary quarter for the crypto markets. And so, for us, the way that we look at it, you still have a lot of people coming in. So now you can see action on the price, I think, because of this. But also because, this is an asset class that is getting more relevant by the day. And so for Ledger, it has been a very strong Q1 quarter to date, comparable to Q4.
So talk to me a little bit about how geopolitics is factoring into potentially some of that demand right now, because certainly everything we're seeing playing out with Ukraine and Russia, crypto has become a key focus, not just the debate around sanctions and sanctions evaders, but also just in terms of all of the money you're seeing being raised through cryptocurrencies in Ukraine to aid in efforts and humanitarian issues there. Is it fueling not only security, but also just demand in general for the types of keys that you are creating and selling?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, what you're seeing now is something that, the Bitcoin and crypto community has been advocating for a long time. Since 2008, I joined in 2014. And even in 2014, when you were saying those things like, Bitcoin will be useful in those type of situations, people will look at you and thinking, okay, this will never happen. And now what has happened between 14 and now is, many fiat currencies have gone down, severely, depending on the country. War has happened, when people thought that war was behind us, and it's happening in Europe, just at our doorstep. And so these are situations where suddenly Bitcoin revealed itself as a great store of value, as a great medium of exchange. But it's no surprise. It's something that we've said for a long time.
So how does that speak to the partnership that you recently announced with Nuvei? I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that right. Because I would imagine that what we are seeing playing out in Eastern Europe, for example, or the fact that you have a hyperinflation dynamic that is starting to emerge in certain key emerging markets as well, is only going to drive more everyday, potentially, use of cryptocurrency assets.
Correct. But you see those trends, they've happened already 12 months ago. I was looking at our statistics before coming on this show. And, the last year, we've seen extreme growth, much higher, actually, in Russia and Ukraine that we've seen in other regions of the world, especially, compared to the U.S., for example. So let's say that U.S. was 150% growth year on year. And what we've seen in Ukraine and Russia was more like 800% and north of that. And so, I think the markets always anticipate crisis. And I think, this has been building up until now. But what you see definitely is every time that a country enter war territories and or fiat currency it's a debacle. Think about Lebanon, for example. Then, crypto is really coming in every time. And so it shows that it's probably good for exchange of value for the future, for sure.